What if the key to scaling your nonprofit wasn't working harder, but thinking more like a marketer? Missy Heilman spent 15 years in the marketing world before launching BioGirls in 2013. When she went all in as CEO in 2018, she brought something most nonprofits don't have: a business mind paired with unshakable mission clarity. Today, BioGirls has grown from one Fargo program to a regional movement, helping thousands of girls understand that they matter every single year. If you're a nonprofit leader trying to grow while staying true to your mission, wondering how to scale without burning out or becoming transactional, Missy's story will show you that it's not only possible, it is an incredible path forward. In this episode of Tell All the Podcast, Missy is going to share with us how she scaled with strategy and soul while she still shows up as a hands-on on-site coordinator despite running the organization, and what she's learned about leading without fearing failure. You're going to discover how to build a culture that honors both impact and balance, and why worth, not achievement, is the message your team and community needs to hear.
Over the rainbow.
Missy Heilman, welcome to Tell the Podcast.
Thank you. That was quite the intro.
You're quite the person, which is why we wanted you on Tell the Podcast. For folks that may not know you, who's Missy?
You know, I just got to think about this over the weekend because I rewrote for the 14th time my intro as a site director for BioGirls at Olivet Lutheran Church. And let me start at the end of what I wrote.
Okay.
Because usually we start with a career, right? I am a wife to my husband, Tom. We've been married almost 24 years.
That's a long time.
I'm only 25, so how can it be?
Absolutely.
Tom and I love to adventure. My coworker, Betsy, says our vacations are not vacations.
They're adventures.
They're adventures. We are out exploring, mountain biking, running, doing triathlons, you name it. We combine relaxing with adventuring. He's a little bit more, let's say, crazy than I am when it comes to adventuring, but we like to do that together. I'm a mom to 3 girls who were little girls when BioGirls first started. They are now 20, almost 18, and almost 12. But I love being mom to them. They are wonderful human beings. It's fun to watch them spread their wings and soar and see the adults that they're growing into. They're all very active, so we have lots of events that we go to. My oldest is in Wisconsin at school, and she still runs. She's a cross-country and track runner. And then 2 at home that do lots of activities, so we are constantly on the go, which I wouldn't want it any other way. And then I mentioned triathlon. That's a big passion of mine. I'm also a nerd when it comes to professional running. So track and field, marathoning, like most men know football stats, I know professional runners and stats. And then I'm also a crazy cat lady.
Tell me more.
I have 2 cats.
Tell me about your cats.
So Harry, my kid's joke, is my favorite child. He is the coolest cat ever. We call him our cat dog. And then we have another cat named Huck. And that's all I'll say about my cats. But if you want to know more, I'm happy to share.
I was going to say, at some point, want to learn more about your cats.
And then professionally, you hit it. I started my career at Microsoft, then went to a small startup company, went to Denver, worked for a large enterprise company that was bought out, came back, worked for myself for 7 years as a consultant. My expertise was in CRM systems and marketing automation systems. So I helped businesses of all sizes align their marketing and sales processes, supported by the technology.
Okay, this makes more sense now, because when your team at one time told me that you're on Salesforce, I was like, what kind of startup nonprofit go straight into Salesforce, but that makes so much more sense.
We didn't go straight into Salesforce. We used free tools for a long time. And when it got to a point where we were starting to scale, given my background, I knew that free disparate systems were not going to be the method to be able to scale. And so that's when we went to Salesforce. So I did that for 7 years. I had my own business. And then I did for 2 years prior to leaving work for a professional services company as their VP of marketing. And I would say that any job you have, you can learn something from and take and grow from it. It wasn't the right culture fit for me, but I was on the executive team and I learned so many fantastic skills that have helped me build BioGirls to what it is today. In 2018, I was at a crossroads. I knew that I either needed to give up the reins for BioGirls and let someone else build it, or I needed to give up my full-time paying job to focus on BioGirls. My mind and my heart were in the same, or going in the same direction. It was my husband, who's a financial advisor, that said, "You want to do what?" But after, it took about 9 months, I left my job, and it wasn't very long before he said, absolutely the right decision.
I love that. Side note, this is not a part of the, well, kind of, I guess it might be. If you were doing automation in that work pre-2018, what is your mind doing in 2025 as we're about to go into 2026? Are you just thinking about how we can optimize everything and automate so many things?
It's pretty mind-blowing because when I started at VTrends was the company name, the small startup that was the second in the market for marketing automation. It was Eloqua and VTrends. And so we were developing things that didn't exist, similar to where we're at today. It was such a fun, exciting job. So yeah, to fast forward to today and to see where things are going, it's just mind-blowing, really. But I think it also, it gives us, there's a lot of excitement around it. It's not like fear, like, holy crap, we're behind, right? It's what can we do and how can AI support the work of nonprofits?
Well, I think one of my favorite conversations was my cousin, who is your chief operating officer, my
Laura.
dear cousin Laura. But she's like, "Hey," and she has the thickest Norwegian accent. She's like, "Hey, would you want to grab coffee? And I need to learn more about AI." And I was like, "Of course." Now, here's what's also funny, and I don't know if she told you this story, but within like 15 minutes, and we met at some random coffee shop in South Fargo, within 15 minutes, her mother was calling my mother to be like, "Did you know Max and Laura met?" And my mom's like, "No, I have no idea what his schedule is." By the way, she has full access to my schedule, so she could. But also, I love that's a small town that we live in. And I love that your team is thinking about how do we harness the power of these things?
Yeah. You know, the difference being, well, we still think very strategically about those things. And I think one of the things that has helped BioGirls be successful over the years is that we are thinking about how do we do this without burning out our resources, i.e. our people? How do we do this and still be fiscally responsible to our supporters? And how do we do this in a way that supports our mission? All of our decisions are mission first.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So I mean, one, I think we need to have you come back and let's just do one on marketing automation, because I think every nonprofit needs to learn how to harness the power of marketing automation. But for the purposes of today's podcast, I'm curious, when you started BioGirls, it was really just a handful of girls in one community here in Fargo, and now it's across multiple states. You have impact on thousands of girls every single year. When you look back, what moment made you think, okay, this is bigger than I imagined?
I love this story. So when I started BioGirls, I truly wanted to impact a couple of girls. And I started it at our church at Olivet because I knew I needed an organization to back this idea. And, you know, many churches are like, you have an idea and you're willing to do the work? Woohoo, go for it, right? And that's absolutely the case at all of it. And so that first year, I recruited friends and friends of friends and even voluntold a few people that they were going to be a part of it. And I still have so much admiration for that first year and look back on it and just kind of giggle because from week to week, we'd say, well, what are we going to teach the girls next week? What should we focus on? What could the lesson be? But there was so much joy around the program and fun, and there was no expectation of the kids. It was show up, be your best self, get to know some people, and we'll run a 5K at the end and see what happens. Now, fast forward, we have 120 program locations across 5 states. And I never imagined that when I started Bio Girls. I had 2 toddlers. Well, they're a little bit older than toddler, but I was pregnant with my 3rd. And I had coworkers at the time who said, Missy, this could be national. This could be, you could impact. And at that point, he said thousands. And I was like, I don't have time for that. I was working full time. I was pregnant with my 3rd kid and just doing this truly to make a difference in one girl's life. And so I often say my friends and coworkers, they dreamed big for me before I was willing to. Mm-hmm. And then once it started taking off, after that first year, we had a woman from Fergus Falls, Jill Nelson. She reached out and said, we need this in Fergus Falls. And at that point, I had no capacity, but I knew that might be the opportunity. And if I said no, that might be it. And so I said yes. And it was good. It forced me to start thinking about process, about documentation, about what this would actually look like. So the first year and the second year, we weren't even a nonprofit yet. By the 3rd year, when we had 3 communities and all of it, the YMCA in Fergus Falls, and I don't even remember who in Jamestown, were our fiscal sponsors, the 3 communities. At that point, I was like, okay, we need to figure out what this is.
How true is it, though, that oftentimes as founders, as leaders, like we sometimes have a tough time seeing the potential where it might be so clear to others? Isn't that wild?
I think it is. And I think it's because you're in it. You're in the thick of it. And so you have your to-do list. And in my case, at that point, I was the full-time VP of marketing for a professional services company. So I wasn't like, how do I add to it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was easier for other people to say, this could be national or whatever their dream was for Bio Girls. And it just took me a little longer to get there.
So you've you've led Bio Girls with such intentionality since you founded it, but also since you came on as CEO full time, right? So you've talked about growing fast, but never in a way that loses heart. I'm curious, how, or maybe what have you learned about scaling with something that's so personal and scaling?
So I think that's where mission first comes in. Every decision we make comes back to, does this help us further our mission? You can get caught up in bells and whistles or exciting things that maybe don't tie back to your mission. And have we done that over the last 13 years? Yes.
Shiny objects, absolutely.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we have a perfect example with our teen program. That's something that I still feel passionately about, but teens are a different demographic. We work with 2nd through 6th graders. We do that very well. Are we reaching every single 2nd through 6th grader that we can? Absolutely not. And so that's where our focus continues to be, even though we chase the shiny object of working with teenagers there for a couple of years, but the same methodology didn't prove true for teenagers. I'm not going to say never. Will we ever try it again? Maybe. But right now, that's not what our mission is focused on.
You stay, or maybe what's your advice on avoiding mission drift? Because there are so many nonprofit leaders that are out there right now. And for the ones that are listening, like somebody in your community needs something
Mhm.
and you're like, oh, well, it's related. We can do that. We have the person power, we have the willpower, we have the heart power, we have whatever it is. What is your advice on avoiding mission drift or keeping them on mission?
Yeah, so two things. I think it's a compliment when people say, you should also do X, right? For us, we get often a program for boys.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a compliment. That means that we are doing something right and we're doing it well. And they believe that we could also do a boys program well. So that I take it as a compliment every time. I also say if I had $5, I would never have to fundraise again for every time someone said, when are you going to start a boys program?
Yeah.
But I think for us, the key has been having a strategic plan. So we worked with an outside consultant to develop a 3-year strategic plan. My recommendation is don't go beyond 3 years because a lot changes in 3 years. But that has helped us stay laser focused on the work that we did dabble in the teen program. It was a pilot. We believed that it did help adolescent girls improve their mental health. It was mission focused. It failed. We no longer offer a teen program. But having that strategic plan helped us focus on growth in North Dakota. Our strategic goal was to reach 1 in 6 North Dakota girls annually by the end of 2025. When we set that strategic goal, we were reaching approximately 1 in 25 girls in North Dakota. We're actually going to fail to meet our goal of 1 in 6, but it's not a failure. We are going to reach 1 in 8 to 1 in 9 North Dakota girls annually, and we've been doing that over the last couple of years. And so while that was a stretch goal, it was what we were working towards, we don't view it as failure because the amazing work that we've done over the last 3 years has been incredible. To go from 1 in 25 to 1 in 9, that's a huge success.
I think that's what's so intrigued by, as we've been working with your team a little bit on a couple of small projects, is like when I first heard this was our goal and we failed, and I was like, I'm sorry, let's back that train up. And part of, I think, our responsibility as like an outsider is also to hold up that mirror. And what I loved and what I appreciated about the way that your team shared it was that it's not that the outcome is a failure, it's that we have an opportunity to do more work into it.
Yep.
So, okay, I want to stick on this theme of a strategic plan because most folks, and I would guess most folks listening, think strategic plan and they cringe, right? Like they get itchy because you go through this process and you do it every 3 to 5 years, and a consultant comes in, they talk you through it, and then you end up with a 70 slide deck, right? And then it gets put on a shelf, never to be seen until the next strategic plan. What for you makes maybe a great strategic plan that allows you to say, this gives us flexibility to do pilot programs, try different things, but also keeps us mission focused?
Yeah. I think the key is that you don't end with a 70 slide deck. You don't end with a binder that's so thick you could do campfires all summer with it. The key is that you state your goal, but then at least annually, I would recommend quarterly, you are reviewing what that strategic goal is. You set your annual plan that's going to help you get closer to reaching that goal. And then your quarterly goals roll up to that annual plan. So you're constantly working towards that 3-year goal, but you're breaking it down by quarter and by year. And we did that super successfully when we set our first strategic plan. We had the consultant come back and help us set those quarterly, we call them quarterly rocks, that first year. After that first year, we could do it on our own as a leadership team because we got in the cadence and we knew what we were doing at that point. But everything that we set a goal on is working towards that strategic.
Are you an EOS team?
So when we set our strategic goal in 2021, we were not. We have since implemented EOS.
Okay. And so for folks that don't know, EOS is the entrepreneurial operating system. It has been made famous over the last, what, 5, 6, 7 years. And it literally an operating system for how you get from a goal to done. I don't hear it used often, if ever, in a nonprofit space. What the heck?
It was interesting when I was made aware of EOS, it was from one of our supporters. And so we were coming up on the end of our 3 years. And the consultant that we had used to set our first strategic plan was no longer able to work. She wasn't able to do that anymore. So I was looking for someone else to help us through a similar process. And I spoke with this supporter of BioGirls, and he said, well, do you use EOS? And I had no idea what it was. So got the book. Actually, Laura and I read the book together, and we're like, yes, we get it. We were doing many of those same concepts already. It just formalized
It
what
just
we were doing.
packages it up for you. Yeah.
So not only do we look at it annually, quarterly, but we as a leadership team look weekly at progress towards our goals.
Oh my gosh. I have a couple of folks who I use as examples of these are business people that just happen to work in nonprofits. And you now get to be one of them, which I so love and appreciate. But it's so powerful to give your team common language and say, hey, we actually use an operating system. We're not just trying to be like a cute nonprofit. Like, we have an incredible mission. We have real goals. And in order to get to those, we need to knock out our rocks, our big goals every single year, or get really close to them. So that way we can fill in the rest of the jar, right? Because that's the visual that we use with all those other things. I'm curious. You are a big, high-level strategic thinker, but you've also said one of your favorite roles is being a site director. I'm curious, what keeps you on that ground level, and how does staying ground level keep you connected to the mission?
We actually require all of our employees to volunteer at a BioGirls program at some time during the year.
That's so cool.
It's how we can share the importance and the why and the stories behind what we do firsthand. I started BioGirls because I wanted to make a difference in the lives of girls. And that's what keeps me passionate and fueled throughout the year is the 12 weeks that I get to spend with girls, hearing their successes, being their shoulder to cry on, being their person, being the place where they belong, and they're excited when, whether it's me or one of our other volunteers says their name when they arrive. And just seeing, I already said this, but seeing the growth of these girls over those 12 weeks is so incredible. And we've created something really special at all of it. It happens other places, but Betsy's my co-leader at all of it. Last year, 25 of the 40 girls were repeat participants. And I didn't do the math from the year before, but I would say probably 20 of the 40 last year have been at our program 2+ years. Because it's where they belong. They want to be there. Their parents aren't just signing up for them. They're saying, I can't wait for all of it to start. In fact, I went to church last Wednesday night at all of it, and we have a gal, she's in 6th grade now. And she saw me and she's like, when does BioGirls start again, Missy? That's the excitement that these girls have when it's so important in this generation. There's a place where they belong.
Amen. Fearlessness seems to be a recurring theme in your life.
It's my only tattoo. No,
For
just kidding.
real?
I've got 2 tattoos. I forgot. I just got my other one this summer. I always forget. But my first one says fearless on my foot.
What does not fearing failure look like in real life, especially as you're now leading an organization where people count on you every day?
Yeah. We talk about this weekly at BioGirls and as a leadership team. And I think we can just take it back to the lesson that we teach the girls during the year. And that is that failure is a point in time. It doesn't define who you are. And the best thing you can do is remember the lesson, forget the mistake.
Hmm.
So that's what we teach. And that's how we operate our business. If you don't make a mistake, you're never growing.
So we refer to them as wins and learns, right?
Mhm.
And like we used to go more aggressive and we'd call them F ups and things like that, but not actually say F. But we believe that sharing those failures is a big deal. It is like a big deal, and it creates
Mhm.
unity. It's a safe
Safety.
space.
Yeah.
What does that look like in practice for you? Are you opening up spaces for that? Are you, this is my failure this week, or this is my failure this month, or
Informed.
this year, or whatever it is, and here's what I'm learning from it? How do you practice it?
In our team meetings, we actually do the same thing where everybody talks about a failure and a success. So we do that monthly as a team. And then in Bio Girls, when the girls are participating in this 12-week session, we give them opportunity every single week to practice failure. Early on in Bio Girls, we are known as a running club because that's what people would see us out doing. And I get it. But we are non-competitive, and now we've introduced other activity types beyond running. But we use whatever the activity is to teach girls to go outside of their comfort zone, that some days are going to be better than others, that, again, failure doesn't mean a catastrophic end of something.
Yeah.
It means you grow from it and you move on. And so that's how we use these activities, whether it's running, whether it's an art project, whether it's a yoga flow. I mean, who doesn't F up a yoga flow? Come on. Me. I do it all the time. I'm not a yogi, so I'm terrible at yoga. But it goes from, all the way from our team meetings down into how we're working with the girls.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that people may not realize is that girls, far more than boys, are giving up the things that they love to do because of this fear of failure, this idea that they're paralyzed by perfection, that they're going to disappoint somebody if they aren't the best or don't get first place. And so we're trying to change that narrative for girls, not only so that they don't give up the things that they love to do, but they're not afraid to try something new. I always say that my 3 girls are the best social experiment for my work at Bio Girls, to see how they are navigating or have navigated the years of adolescence. They're no different than any other kid out there. I mean, they have experienced the highs and lows. They have experienced the emotional, the tears that come with not feeling like they're good enough or they don't have the friends. They've had mental health issues. But I see my 6th grader right now and how confident she is in herself. And she even said to me, Mom, I'm the only person, not even just girl, the only person that raises their hand in math class to answer questions. And I just thought to myself, how do we keep that the case? And so that's what we're trying to do, is give these girls, what we do is intangible. You don't see it. It's all happening inside their heart and their minds. But how do we make things like raising their hand in class not scary?
I'm curious. You're over 10 years into it. So are you thinking about like, how do we prove, right? Like, it is intangible. It is feeling. But I feel, based on some of the minds that I know in your organization, are you guys thinking ahead to be like, how do we prove that this thing worked? And how do we show those things?
Yes. Great timing, because we're in strategic planning right now. Actually, on Wednesday, we have our annual planning session for EOS where we will talk about 3-year and 10-year. And so we've gone through the process with the board, with our internal team, and now our leadership team will take all of that and develop our next strategic goal. And we've actually already started work with an organization that does evaluations and research for not just nonprofits, but for-profit organizations. For the last 5 to 6 years, we've done evaluation of our program. We can prove that 70% of girls increase self-esteem and 50% decrease anxiety. But what else?
Yeah.
Like you said, how do we know that as a participant for 1 year, that sixth grade was easier? Or if they participated 4 years, they didn't give up their sports or they did better academically. And so those are the things that we are looking at. And when we look at those data points are really important, and that proves that we are doing what our mission says we will do. But what more can we do? And what is the social return on investment of that? And so those are things that are on the table and things we're looking at. So stay tuned.
I'm so excited to see what are like the parallels, right? Maybe it's causation, maybe it's not, but do we have more women in the state house and the state senate? Do we have more running for school boards? Do we have more that are CEOs or executive levels? I'm so excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah. And you know what? This isn't simple, but at the simplest level, the North Dakota Youth Risk Behavior Survey is the survey done every 2 years to all the middle school and high schoolers in North Dakota, and actually nationwide, but we use the North Dakota data. And that's where we know that girls suffer at double the rate of boys when it comes to mental health and suicide. So that's where we want to start. Let's change these statistics, and we can see that happening. So that's where we're going to start, I think.
Missy, we believe that stories shape who we are. And so one of our standard questions is, what is one story from your life or work that still guides the way that you show up today?
So one of the things I'm very proud of is that I'm a mom and I'm a CEO, and I find time to do things like a half Ironman or multiple half Ironmans. I still show up for every single event that my kids are in. And people are always like, how? How do you do all that? And I think it comes back to my mom being a role model for me. When I was growing up in small town southern Minnesota in the 80s, my mom was the postmaster. I grew up in a town of 100, so the postmaster was a very visible role in the community. Most of my friends' moms did not work. They supported their farmer husband. They were home with the kids. In fact, all of my friends had moms that stayed home. In kindergarten, we went on a field trip to the post office. And it is honestly one of my earliest memories. And I remember being so excited for this field trip. And I always joke, it's not because I was fascinated with the U.S. Postal Service. It was because my mom, the only employee at the post office, was going to give us the tour and lead or guide the field trip. And I remember being so proud of her. And then, I don't know how old I was, but I learned that she earned her own paycheck, and it was $35,000 a year.
Ooh,
I thought we were rich.
Well, in fairness, in small town Minnesota, right?
Yeah. And I just remember how much pride I had for her.
Yeah.
And yet she was still the best mom and cooked my favorite meals for me and showed up at every single basketball game I played, every single track meet, and just really set a great example for me. And so then people ask, well, how? And I said, and right now there's so many women leaving the workforce because they feel pulled in so many directions. And I always remind women that you are inspiring the next generation. And quality time to a kid is when you give them a bath at night. It doesn't have to be you're spending all day with them. And, you know, not to dog anybody who stays home with their kids. That's absolutely fine. I tried it. It wasn't for me. But I just want women, we feel so guilty. I just want to be what my mom was for me. I absolutely want to be that for my girls. But I think I can inspire others as well through that.
So good. Also, Did you end up having a stamp collection as a child?
I sure did.
Do you
my mom probably has it, yes.
Okay.
It was in this book, and it had a squishy pink
Like the
cover.
foam?
Yes.
The foam top?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
I had a sticker book like
yeah.
that. It wasn't pink, but it was, yes. I love that. Our final question. What's one simple good thing that you would leave people with? This could be a piece of wisdom or a reminder that helps them lead with purpose.
Well, usually I say don't fear failure, but we already talked about that a lot. I think find joy in everything that you do. I think at work, we talk about it all the time. It's one of our core values and something we nail. The other values that we have, we still are like, oh, we could do that better. We could do that better. But joy, we have a lot of fun. We can laugh about the flub up sometimes, even in really stressful times like our gala. Like we just have a lot of fun together. I don't know if you saw our Halloween reel.
I did. I absolutely did, because my cousin was the Target lady.
Oh, yes. Yes. And I had the cat. Surprisingly, right?
So good.
We actually were interviewing someone for a position that we have open that day, and we were all dressed up at lunch for that. And her interview was at 12:30, and we saw her pull into the parking lot early, and we're like, do we stay in costume? Do we quick?
What did you do?
She pulled in, I think, just to see if she found the spot, and then she pulled out. So we had a little extra time to primp ourselves and prepare for the interview. But she did say, I saw you through the window, because we have these big windows and we're in a group gathering spot. And she said, I did see you and it looked pretty fun.
I love that.
So just find joy.
Find a little joy. Amen. Missy, if people want to connect with you, if they want to connect with BioGirls, where do they do that?
BioGirls, we're online, biogirls.org, at BioGirls Inc. on all the social platforms. And then I'm Missy Heilman. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram.
And I'm Missy Heilman. You can Google me and you'll figure it out. I love that. Missy, thank you for joining us on Tell All the Podcast. Thanks for all of the incredible work that you're doing to make girls feel beautiful inside and out. Thanks for the incredible work that you're doing, not just for the current generation, but all the future generations that are going to benefit from these girls and these women being like the best possible version of themselves. If you don't get enough thank yous, thank you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me, Max. I appreciate it.
Thanks for spending some time with us today. I hope this conversation gave you something useful to take back to your work. If you're looking for more resources on storytelling, strategy, and building communications that actually move people to action, head on over to WeTellWell.com. We've got guides, case stories, and plenty of ways to dig deeper. And if you're at a point where you're ready to get serious about clarifying your message or telling your story in a bigger way, let's talk. You can book a planning call with our team right on the website. We'd love to hear what you're working on. One last thing. If this episode was helpful, share it with someone on your team or leave us a review. It really does help other mission-driven folks find the show. I'm Max Kringen. Thanks for listening to Tell Well the Podcast. Now go tell your story well, because a well-told story can move your mission forward and change the world.